The movie begins at an orphanage where three friends are playing basketball until a group of bullies, led by Ox, show up.
Got a pretty big mouth for someone so...
Don't say it!
So short.
Calvin agrees to play the big guy for his t-shirt, but unfortunately, he loses. The jerk puts the shirt on, then rips it to shreds on purpose.
They just don't make these things for normal-sized people, you know?
Later, Calvin boasts that he'll soon be adopted by a family who'll buy him 5 new shirts just like it. The orphanage director forces the kids to sell candy bars outside the Los Angeles Knights stadium. At least that way, they can watch the game on the big screen. But since the team lost, the chocolate sales are poor. That means the kids won't get to watch TV. Calvin approaches Coach Wagner to cheer him up and show his passion for basketball. The coach wonders why a kid is out hustling candy at 10 o'clock at night.
It's 10 o'clock, it's a school night. Do your parents know you're out this late?
Calvin explains that he's an orphan, and the money goes to the home. The coach gives him a 20 for 1 bar, but Calvin refuses. He isn't sure the money they earn really goes to the orphanage, like the director, Mr. Biddleman, says. In that case, if the boy won't take his money, then he'll give him free tickets instead. At the orphanage, prospective parents arrive to meet the kids. But Ox insists that none of the older ones stand a chance. People only want the little ones. Sister Teresa brings in a donation box of clothes and scolds Ox for not finishing his history homework. From an old winter coat, a pair of sneakers falls out. Calvin immediately tries them on, and they fit perfectly. They once belonged to a famous basketball player.
He used to belong to some famous basketball player when he was a kid.
Calvin notices the initials MJ. Could they have belonged to Michael Jordan himself? Ox grabs the shoes and tosses them onto a power line, sneering that there's no way they're Jordans. Donations here are always junk. That night, Calvin can't sleep. He wakes up Murph with a toy and insists he needs those sneakers. Murph and Reg reluctantly sneak out with him into the rain. Calvin climbs a tree and carefully inches his way toward the sneakers. Nearly slipping, he finally grabs hold. At that exact moment, lightning strikes the pole. Oh! Electricity surges through the sneakers, as if charging them. The shock knocks Calvin to the ground. The next morning at the stadium, Calvin picks up his tickets. Ox sees him with them and threatens to snitch to Biddleman. But since Calvin has plenty of tickets, he bribes Ox instead. The Knights are down 12 points. The team is struggling financially, and to draw more fans, their star player, Tracy Reynolds, has to take part in a halftime lottery. The winner gets to play one-on-one against him.
Lucky fan will get the chance to go one-on-one with Tracy Reynolds.
Of course, the lucky winner is our young hero. Calvin reacts like he's won the lottery. Ox tries to snatch the winning ticket, but Calvin tricks him by shouting for security, then runs out onto the court to applause. The boy takes the microphone and entertains the crowd. Manager Frank tells Tracy to let the kid score at least once. "I want to be like Mike," Calvin says as he laces up the sneakers. He has 1 minute. Tracy teases him, but Calvin quickly gets around him and sinks the shot. This time, Tracy isn't holding back, but Calvin stuns the crowd by hitting a three-pointer. Furious, Tracy takes off his warm-up jacket to play seriously. Yet, in the next instant, Calvin soars toward the rim and hangs on it. The arena falls silent, then explodes in applause. Biddleman is too busy playing chess to notice, but Frank approaches him with an offer. Let Calvin play for the Knights. The coach doesn't see the point. How can a kid help the team? But the manager insists it will draw fans, offering Biddleman $5,000 for a one-day contract.
Of $5,000 for a one-day contract.
The con man refuses until Frank throws in a few thousand more. Calvin is still in shock from what happened. With his friends, he concludes that it must be the magic sneakers. But Ox has overheard their conversation. Calvin arrives at the Knights' locker room, greets everyone, apologizes to the star, and gets his team uniform, including sneakers. He asks the coach directly, is he here to play or just for publicity? The coach makes it clear. The kid plays well, but he's only there for promotion. Nobody cares how he plays, as long as he excites the fans. The commentators speculate about what the Knights are planning. Calvin sits on the bench. As usual, the Knights are losing. During a timeout, Calvin gives advice, and the coach admits the kid's tips are actually smart. Tracy fumes at the upstart. To make matters worse, the coach substitutes in Calvin for another player.
Tracy, you take Henderson's slot. Calvin, you take the shot.
But Calvin isn't wearing the magic sneakers. Reluctantly, he goes onto the court. He refuses to dribble, passing the ball back to Tracy. Then he calls a timeout, claiming he has to pee. The whole stadium waits just for him. He runs to the locker room, switches into the right sneakers, and returns brimming with confidence. Immediately, he delivers results. The score gap closes, and Calvin soars to the hoop like his airness, Michael Jordan. It's Calvin who scores the winning points. In total, the pint-sized wonder racks up 27 points, earning himself a real contract. Calvin prepares for an away game, but Biddleman reminds him, under the contract, he is now Calvin's legal guardian.
I signed your contract as your guardian.
As long as Calvin plays for the Knights, nobody can adopt him. On the plane, the coach insists that Tracy share a room with the boy. That way, they'll bond and play better together. When the team arrives at their hotel, the hyperactive kid drives the NBA star crazy. That evening, before heading out, Tracy suggests Calvin order some food to the room. When the orphan learns it's all free,
tell them what you want, and they'll bring it to the room. For free.
For free.
He orders way more than he can handle. Tracy returns with a girl, hoping to spend time alone with her, but she becomes more concerned about Calvin, who stuffed himself sick, and spends the evening fussing over him. Calvin apologizes for stealing his roommate's date. Then he makes Tracy pray with him, saying he won't fall asleep otherwise. They discover they have something in common. Both grew up without parents. Because Calvin snores all night, Tracy can't get any rest. To make matters worse, the kid rats him out, telling people they had been out until 1:30 a.m. before the game. Tracy is furious about being exposed. With Calvin on the team, the Knights begin to improve. The players grow closer, and the boy becomes the face of the Los Angeles Knights. Thanks to his sneakers, he dominates the NBA Giants, even though at first they mocked him. He scores basket after basket, and soon it's Calvin who's mocking the other teams. With his earnings, he buys electric scooters for the kids at the orphanage. Now, even NBA stars ask him for autographs.
Can I get your autograph?
Sure, Dirk.
But the team's departure is delayed because Calvin hasn't finished his homework. In the dunk contest, Calvin once again shows something unreal and takes home the trophy. That night, he tells Murph how amazing it feels to be famous and how many privileges he gets now. He even sleeps in his sneakers. Jealous, Ox overhears and once again wants to steal them. Biddleman intervenes and punishes Ox. After all, he has to protect the golden goose. At their next road game, Tracy goes to the pharmacy for allergy meds and sleeping pills, but refuses to take Calvin with him. Another player tells the boy that Tracy is like that with everyone, even his own family. Turns out he actually has a father, but they're estranged. Calvin sneaks into Tracy's car and starts singing along with the radio, mocking Tracy's rap skills. When the song ends, Calvin brings up his dad, saying he would give anything to have a father. At the pharmacy, the pharmacist flirts with Tracy. Distracted, he accidentally takes the sleeping pills instead of the allergy meds. He passes out behind the wheel. He needs to be back before midnight, or he'll be benched. Calvin slips a spare tire under him, grabs the wheel, and somehow survives smashing through road barriers. Miraculously, he makes it back on time. The next morning, Tracy finds out Calvin has been suspended for his reckless stunt, but he realizes the kid saved him and later thanks him on the plane.
I appreciate what you did for me. You had my back.
He even helps Calvin face his fear of the dark. Calvin hasn't had time to prepare for his geometry test. Murph shows up, upset. He tells Calvin that a crowd of adults has come to adopt him. Biddleman had lied about the contract preventing adoption.
Lie to me.
What are you talking about?
The villain insists they only want Calvin because he's famous, but promises to find him the best parents. The candidates are bizarre: actors, soldiers, hippies, Rastafarians, and other eccentrics. Calvin is shocked. Biddleman insists he's better off staying where he is. Calvin visits Tracy's mansion, amazed by his wealth. He tells him he's upset. His friend is mad. He's been paired with weird foster candidates, and tomorrow he'll fail his geometry test. Tracy assures him good parents will show up eventually. As for the test, he'll help himself. The NBA star takes time to brush up on geometry and draws plays on his mansion walls to explain problems in terms Calvin understands. The study session ends in a paint fight. Just then, Murph pulls up in a cab. Can you believe it? $50 for the ride.
Can you believe a cab ride here costs $50?
Tracy, lend me $49.50, he jokes. Murph also wants to study geometry. Soon the three are throwing paint everywhere. 2 more wins will secure the Knights a spot in the playoffs. Calvin has just delivered one of them. If all goes well, the team will earn bonuses and endorsement deals. Murph suggests Calvin doesn't need new parents. Tracy should adopt him. But Calvin wants to fix Tracy's issue with his dad first.
How can you have a dad and not talk to him?
He even shows up with Tracy's father. Instead of reconciling, Tracy blows up and sends them both away. Because of poor teamwork between the stars, the Knights lose their next game to an underdog. Now they have one last shot against the Raptors. Finally, a seemingly perfect family shows up to adopt Calvin, wealthy and respectable. Biddleman gets nervous. He questions Ox about the sneakers. It really is all about them. He convinces Calvin that to impress potential parents, he should look neat, and swaps his old sneakers for new dress shoes. Calvin entrusts Murph to guard the Jordans.
Guard these with your life.
Murph tries them on himself and says, "I want to be like Mike." But when he jumps, he immediately wipes out. Biddleman and the bullies threaten Murph, even burning a photo of his mother. Eventually, the boy breaks and tells them where the sneakers are hidden. Meanwhile, Calvin is dining with the wealthy family. Nervous, he spills his juice. Biddleman heads to a bookie and bets $100,000 on the Raptors.
$100,000.
He's confident because he knows Calvin won't play well without his shoes. The uptight family informs Calvin they'll finalize the adoption papers tomorrow. He'll become a Boyd. Tracy has finally spoken with his father and now wants to have an important talk with Calvin. But when he sees the Boyds, he realizes there's nothing left to say. Calvin gets a call from Murph.
Hello?
His sneakers are locked in Biddleman's safe. He thought they were in his bag. Desperate, Calvin steals a ride and races back to the orphanage. The game has already started without him. Calvin rallies the kids to gang up on Biddleman and tie him up. Now, they need the safe's combination.
Give me the combination to the safe.
Ox approaches. Biddleman begs him to help, but Calvin reminds him that Ox is one of them, not his lackey. Calling him an idiot was Biddleman's mistake. Ox decides to side with the kids. After all, if he were an idiot, he wouldn't have memorized the safe's combination.
You know, if I was an idiot, I wouldn't be able to remember the combination to your safe.
Calvin finally gets his sneakers back, and the orphans race toward the stadium on scooters. Biddleman breaks free from the ropes and tape and immediately calls the bookie. Soon his men are chasing the kids, trying to stop them. Calvin drops the sneakers, but Murph, who had fallen a little behind, saves the day and grabs them. Just as they reach the entrance, Biddleman blocks Calvin's path. The boy knocks him out cold by hurling a scooter at him. When Calvin runs onto the court, the Knights are already down by 21 points. The crowd erupts at his arrival. Tracy convinces the coach to let him play, and miraculously, the team begins cutting down the lead. But when Cambridge dives for the ball, there's a pileup, and Calvin's old magical sneakers are torn apart. He admits to Tracy that his talent isn't real. It was all the shoes.
Tracy, the sneakers were magic.
Tracy tells him this isn't the time for jokes, that he needs to focus because his teammates believe in him. During the timeout, Calvin announces that this will be his last game. After this, he'll go back to living the life of a regular boy. This time, without the sneakers, he can't play the way he used to, so he relies on his wits. Calvin makes a clever pass to Tracy, who scores the game-winning 2 points. The Knights make the playoffs. Calvin is sad, knowing he probably won't see his friend again, while the coach is happy he finally found a family. But the Boyds never show up in the parking lot. Calvin returns to the orphanage, where he admits to Ox that the best thing that ever happened during all this was the all-you-can-eat buffet at the hotel. Then, Tracy arrives at the orphanage. The Knights have become sponsors of the home. As for Biddleman, he disappeared after the game. Rumor has it he couldn't pay off his gambling debt.
Something about a bet he didn't have the money to cover.
Murph watches Tracy and Calvin with envy, and rightly so. Tracy has decided to adopt Calvin, but the boy insists that Tracy also adopt Murph as a bonus. Soon, Reggie finds a family of her own as well. That night, in their new home, the kids play and laugh before bed, happy that they've finally found a family.